Demian Robinson committing to Maryland was jaw-dropping. It's almost as jaw-dropping as five-star wide receiver Raheem Jarrett choosing to pick Maryland over LSU. You'll know that Demian Robinson is the number 2 rated defensive end in the country and was really 247 Sports composite top 50 recruit and a top 20 recruit according to ESPN. And the reason that this is a big deal to me is not just because Mike Locksley was able to land another top 100 recruit, but because this sets the table for what Caleb Williams had done earlier in the week. Talking about a kid that was down to LSU and Oklahoma to many of us. He produced a top 5 that included also Clemson, Penn State, and Maryland. Now, I found it wildly interesting that Maryland was on this list. I get that he's from the state of Maryland. I get that he goes to high school at Gonzaga College. But Maryland wasn't very good last year. Talking about 3-9. Talking about getting sunned by the Ohio State, getting beat down 59-0 by Penn State. Why are you entertaining this place? Well, Mike Locksley's going, okay, first, I've already got a 5-star receiver here who's going to be in year 2 when you sign your national letter of intent. I also am going to get you a player that can help on defense. And we know what kind of talent comes out of the Maryland area, right? Not just saying Anthony McFarland was good, but Chase Young was better. And look at Damascus's own Brian Brzee, who left the state to go to Clemson, but he was considering Maryland for a little while. If you're Caleb Williams, does this do something for you? I'm sure that it does, but does it do enough? I'm not sure, especially in this day where we're in a dead period that is extended through April 15th. At a minimum, it might be longer than that. There are no visits that are taking place. So to see some of these kiddos that are committing right here, right now to secure a spot is interesting, but also keeping kids in the boat all the way until the early signing period begins is not going to be an easy thing for anybody to do, right? Travion Henderson committed to Ohio State last night, making it the 15th commit in what could be the greatest recruiting class of the rankings era. Even so, Maryland says we'll raise you our own commitment. So should we be buying into what Mike Locksley is doing at Maryland? It's in the Big Ten, but it's also in a Big Ten that's not just ruled by Ohio State, but Michigan is right there. Penn State is right there. Minnesota emerged at a time when I didn't expect to see much of them. Iowa is decent. Michigan State is in a reboot phase with Mel Tucker as head coach, but they're going to bring in Scotty Hazelton as the defensive coordinator. And that's before we even begin to talk about what Greg Schiano might be able to do at Rutgers, as he is the most successful coach in the history of Rutgers football, which ain't saying a whole lot because I think they've made fewer than 10 bowl games in like 130 years of football. But if I'm really going to say that Caleb Williams has to entertain Maryland, it'd be because Mike Locksley is doing this. Raheem Jarrett, Demian Robinson, I think you're going to have to add a few more around for Williams to feel comfortable there. But now we really have to consider Maryland. And that's really what this Robinson commitment did for me. It means not just considering, okay, cool, home state, you're going to give a home state school some love, kind of like DJ Ungulale putting in his uncle's junior college of his top 5, trying to get his uncle's junior college some much needed publicity. Cool, whatever. But why would you do this? Unless you think that Mike Locksley is selling you something that you can follow through on. Add to this, Mike Locksley didn't take a 2020 quarterback. In a day and age where we're seeing folks like LSU, a place he's considering, take 2 2020 quarterbacks, Mike Locksley basically just says to Caleb Williams in no unspoken terms, it's your spot. I have exposed myself and my program in the future so that I might have an opportunity to win you. It's a big deal. And you should be selling out for 6'2", 209 pounds, who is absolutely elusive as a runner and a pretty doggone good passer as well. I mean, I got to talk with Joseph Wette before he ended up enrolling at Oklahoma, and he's a teammate of Caleb Williams's at Gonzaga College. And he was saying, you don't understand, RJ. Williams is the truth. And I would say, well, I mean, Oklahoma seems to have their eyes set on Brock Vandagriff. Brock Vandagriff committed to the 21 class. I'm sure Caleb Williams can play. And then as we're seeing this continue to go on, You see, Williams is the best prospect at quarterback in this 21 class, ahead of Brock Vandagriff, who reopened his recruitment on January 1st, and then 3 weeks later decides to commit to the in-state Georgia Bulldogs, where he will lead their 21 class. But Riley has an opportunity here. He has an opportunity here to pick up a commitment at a position where he has been a star maker. He is the best quarterbacks coach, offensive coordinator in college football today. We know that because he has 3 straight Heisman finalists who have played quarterback for him. Many people believe Rattler's going to be right there. But he also needs a win. He needs a win at a time when he lost out on the Travion Henderson sweepstakes, a kiddo that was going to take a visit to Oklahoma on April 18th until the spring game got canceled, and that was going to count as his official visit. And then Ohio State was able to pounce on that opportunity. He's also, once again, thrown all of his eggs into the Caleb Williams basket, which is what you have to do when you're recruiting a quarterback. You can't offer more than one at a time, and you can't absolutely be in on more than one at a time because that's just not how it works. It is a position of absolute value like it is in the NFL, right? Which leads me to what I'm going to talk about with Eric Gilbert as the guy that most coaches believe is going to produce the most of any true freshman in football. But just rounding out this bit about how Damian Robinson's commitment helps Mike Locksley's case, perhaps Damian Robinson knows something about Caleb Williams that we don't know. Because the only people that are more plugged in about what the recruits are doing than the coaches and the analysts are the kids themselves. They talk. As a matter of fact, it wasn't that long ago that Williams and Vandagriff were talking, and we talked to them and we'd ask them about it. He'd be like, how do you like Oklahoma, Caleb? And he'd be like, that's Brock's school, as Brock Vandagriff was committed to Oklahoma. And at the time, he was considered an LSU lean in a big way because he took an extended visit to LSU in November where he got to hang out with Joe Brady and Joe Burrow and get a chance to see how a national championship team operates. Now, the landscape has changed. Everything we know about sports has changed. Everything we know about college football has changed. Has Caleb Williams? Well, I don't necessarily think that he's going to end up at LSU like many LSU fans, but I think that Maryland has to be considered now. And if you really like Penn State and you like what Penn State is building, you believe you can beat Micah Bowen out, who is the 2020 dual threat quarterback signee for James Franklin. But would you really consider Clemson at this standpoint? I don't think so. I don't think so because they have their answer for when Trevor Lawrence gets drafted next year in 21. His name is DJ Uiagalelei, 6'5", 240 pounds. You want to go where you're going to have an opportunity to play with little competition, right? We're fans of competition. Coaches love competition. They absolutely want to have competitors at every position because that way they can't lose, all right? They cannot lose. They can't lose if they know that having Spencer Rattler in the same boat with Bryce Young, in the same boat with Tanner Mordecai, Chandler Morris, and Caleb Williams is going to help. But that didn't happen, right? Riley's been really good about making the guy when he has to make the guy. But up until preseason camp begins, he has been loath to make a guy the guy at Oklahoma. Because like any head coach, he wants his advantage. His advantage is being able to say, I'm not going to just give you a spot. You got to go out and earn it. And if anything, you want to bring in guys that are going to compete with other guys to make them better, right? The iron sharpens iron part of this is important because I think it's true. I think competition and depth make you a better football team. But if you're just looking out for yourself, like many recruits are, you're going to try to find the best situation where the depth chart is shallowest and where you have the best opportunity to win. That's really what the math comes down to. Jamar Chase was going to go to Florida until he looked at the wide receiver depth chart and found out, it might be hard for me to break in over there. That's the Biletnikoff Award winner at wide receiver for LSU right now, the guy who's going to wear the glorified number 7. Tyrann Mathieu's number 7. Devin White's number 7. Grant Delpit's number 7. Patrick Peterson's number 7. Even he was a bit afraid of competition coming out of high school out there in Harvey, Louisiana. So afraid that for about a week, he was committed to Kansas, where nobody was going to compete with him as the dominant wide receiver for the Jayhawks. But he also knew what we all know. Kansas football's a dumpster fire. Kansas football's best win of the past 5 years is Boston College. Who is Boston College except a program that got Steve Adazio fired? Andre Dillon's headed to the NFL, and Adazio's coaching the Rams out of Colorado State now. It's not a good look. He made the best decision for himself. He made the best decision for his people. And now we're talking about him possibly being the first wide receiver off the board next year, as he's probably going to come out after his junior season, right? I think all of that is important.